I overheard my daughter say, "Mom's too weak to fight back." She was stealing from my accounts. But I wasn't weak. That night, I called the police and pressed charges. They arrested her at work, and that was when everything changed. My name is Patricia, and I'm 68 years old. I'm calling to you from my quiet apartment in Portland, Oregon, where I now live alone, though that wasn't always the case. Before I tell you what happened, I'd love to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments. There's something comforting about knowing I'm not alone in this. This story began 3 years ago, though if I'm being honest, the seeds were planted much earlier. I just didn't want to see them growing. My daughter Vanessa was 42 when this all happened, my only child, my miracle baby, because the doctors said I'd never conceive. For years, it was just the two of us after my husband James passed from a heart attack when Vanessa was 19. I worked double shifts as a nurse at Providence Hospital to put her through college. I sacrificed vacations, new clothes, repairs on my aging car, all of it, so she could have opportunities I never had. She graduated with a business degree, and I was so proud. But something shifted after college. The jobs never seemed to work out. There was always a reason: a difficult boss, office politics, a company downsizing. By her mid-30s, she'd moved back home, promising it was temporary. Temporary became 5 years. I didn't mind at first. I loved having her around. The house felt less empty. We'd watch movies together, cook dinner, talk about her job applications. I was recently retired, living on my pension and Social Security, but I had enough. We managed. But then I started noticing things. Small things at first. My checkbook didn't quite balance. I think I had $800, but the bank said $650. I chalked it up to my aging mind. Maybe I'd forgotten a purchase, miscalculated. At 65, I figured memory slips were normal. Then my credit card statement showed charges I didn't recognize. A $200 purchase at Target, dinner at an expensive steakhouse, a payment to some online shopping site. When I asked Vanessa about it, casually, not accusingly, she had explanations. She'd picked up groceries for us at Target, didn't I remember? The steakhouse was where she'd met a potential employer for an interview. The online purchase was a birthday gift for me she'd ordered on my card, planning to reimburse me. It all sounded reasonable. I wanted it to be reasonable. Looking back now, I see how desperately I needed to believe her. She was my daughter, my baby, the child I'd devoted my entire adult life to raising. The thought that she might be lying to me, stealing from me, it was too painful to consider, so I didn't consider it. I made excuses. I told myself I was being paranoid, suspicious for no reason. What kind of mother suspects her own child? But the discrepancies kept growing, and my savings kept shrinking, and somewhere deep in my gut, beneath all my denial and love and hope, I knew something was very, very wrong. The first real crack in my denial came 6 months before everything exploded. I'd gone to withdraw money from my savings account, the one I'd been building for emergencies, and eventually to leave something for Vanessa when I passed. I'd worked so hard for that money, extra shifts, holiday overtime, years of careful saving. It should have had close to $47,000. The teller's face was neutral as she handed me the balance receipt, $12,316. I stared at that number, certain there'd been a mistake, a bank error, something. I asked to speak with a manager, my hands trembling as I held that slip of paper. The manager, a kind woman named Susan, pulled up my account history on her computer. Her expression grew concerned as she scrolled. "Mrs. Harrison, there have been numerous transfers out of this account over the past 18 months. Large transfers. 2,000 here, 3,500 there. They're all authorized with your PIN and security information." "That's impossible," I said. "I haven't made any transfers." But even as I spoke, realization was creeping in like cold water. Susan printed out the transaction history. Transfer after transfer, dating back nearly 2 years, always to the same external account. Never the same amount, which I later learned was deliberate. Varying amounts are less likely to trigger fraud alerts. My chest felt tight. Can you tell me whose account this money went to? She couldn't, not without a court order. Privacy laws. But she gave me the printouts and suggested I file a police report if I believed fraud had occurred. I drove home in a daze, those papers burning on the passenger seat beside me. When I got home, Vanessa was in the kitchen making lunch. She looked up and smiled, that same smile I'd loved since she was a baby. "Hey, Mom, want a sandwich?" I should have confronted her right then. I should have demanded answers, but I couldn't form the words. Instead, I went to my bedroom, locked the door, and cried until my ribs ached. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about all those transfers. The timing coincided with when Vanessa moved back in. She had access to everything, my purse, my mail, my personal information. I'd never hidden anything from her. Why would I? She was my daughter. Over the next few weeks, I started paying attention differently. I noticed how she'd volunteer to help with my bills, to check my mailbox, to organize my financial papers, how she'd suggest I take a nap while she handled things, how she always knew my passwords because I'd shared them, trusting her completely. I started keeping my purse locked in my bedroom, changed my PIN, stopped telling her about my bank visits. She noticed the changes. "Mom, why are you being so secretive lately? Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, honey." But everything wasn't fine. I was living with someone I no longer trusted, and that someone was my own child, the person I'd given everything to, the person I'd protected and sacrificed for, the person who'd been systematically robbing me blind. I spent 2 months in agonizing limbo, trapped between my growing certainty and my inability to act on it. Part of me kept hoping I was wrong, that there was some explanation I hadn't considered. Maybe someone had hacked my account and Vanessa had nothing to do with it. Maybe there was identity theft involved. Maybe. But the evidence kept mounting. I discovered she'd opened a credit card in my name. I only found out when I checked my credit report, something I'd never done before. But Susan at the bank had recommended it. There it was, a Capital One card I'd never applied for, with a balance of $8,900, all charged in the past year. When I checked the statements online, using a password reset because I'd never had the password to begin with, I saw purchases at stores I never shopped at, restaurants I'd never visited, even a weekend at a resort in Cannon Beach I'd never been to. My hands shook as I scrolled through the charges. Each one felt like a betrayal, a little knife wound. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was deliberate, calculated theft, and she'd been doing it while living under my roof, eating food I bought, using utilities I paid for, all while pretending to love me. I started documenting everything. I created a folder hidden in my closet with printed bank statements, credit card bills, those transfer records from the bank. I felt like a detective in my own home, gathering evidence against my own daughter. The stress was eating me alive. I lost weight, couldn't sleep. My doctor asked if I was okay, and I lied and said I was fine. How do you tell someone that your child is stealing your retirement? It felt shameful somehow, like I'd failed as a mother. I considered confronting Vanessa directly. Maybe she'd confess. Maybe she'd apologize and we could work something out, get her help, figure out why she'd done this. I played out those conversations in my head 100 times. But I was also afraid of her reaction, afraid of losing her completely, afraid of what it would mean to admit that my daughter, my precious miracle daughter, was a thief. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday evening in early March. I'd gone to bed early with a headache, but I couldn't sleep. Around 10 o'clock, I got up to get some water. As I walked past Vanessa's room, I heard her on the phone. I should have kept walking, but I heard my name, and I stopped. "Yeah, I took another $1,500, she was saying. "No, she hasn't noticed. I told you Mom's too weak to fight back. She won't do anything even if she does find out. She's terrified of losing me. I'm all she has." She laughed then. actually laughed. I've got at least another 6 months before I need to worry. Her Social Security deposits hit next week. I'll take half before she even checks. Trust me, this is the easiest money I've ever made. I stood frozen in that hallway, my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. I don't remember walking back to my bedroom. One moment I was outside Vanessa's door. The next I was sitting on my bed in the dark, shaking uncontrollably. Too weak to fight back. Those words kept echoing in my head, each repetition like a slap. Is that really what she thought of me? That I was some pathetic old woman she could manipulate forever? That my love for her made me powerless? I looked at myself in the mirror across from my bed. Even in the darkness, I could see my reflection, a 68-year-old woman who'd worked her whole life, who'd survived her husband's death, who'd raised a child alone, who'd spent 4 decades as a nurse dealing with emergencies and life-or-death situations. I wasn't weak. I'd just been loving. There's a difference. But Vanessa had mistaken my love for weakness, my trust for stupidity, my mercy for opportunity. Something shifted in me that night. The mother who'd been making excuses, who'd been paralyzed by hope and denial, who'd been too afraid to face the truth, she was done. In her place was a woman who'd been pushed too far. I didn't sleep at all that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and I made a decision. Several decisions, actually. First, I was not going to confront Vanessa privately. There would be no emotional confrontation, no begging for explanations, no giving her a chance to lie to my face again. She'd been lying for years. One more conversation wouldn't change anything. Second, I was going to the police. This wasn't just a family matter anymore. This was fraud, identity theft, elder abuse. These were crimes, and I was going to treat them as crimes. Third, I was done protecting her from the consequences of her actions. I'd spent her whole life shielding her, making excuses, giving her chances. And look where that had gotten me. Robbed, disrespected, laughed about on phone calls. When morning came, I acted completely normal. I made coffee, said good morning to Vanessa, discussed the weather. She had no idea that everything had changed. I'm going out for a bit, I told her around 9 o'clock, running some errands. Sure, Mom. Need anything while you're out? The audacity of that question, as if she cared about my needs while she was draining my bank accounts. No, honey, I'm fine. I drove to the police station on 47th Avenue. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might have a heart attack before I even got inside. I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, asking myself if I was really going to do this. Then I remembered her laughing. Mom's too weak to fight back. I grabbed my folder of evidence and walked inside. The officer at the front desk was young, maybe 30. Can I help you, ma'am? I need to report a theft, I said. My voice was steady, stronger than I expected. My daughter has been stealing from me. I have documentation. His expression shifted from routine to concerned. Let me get you to a detective. Please have a seat. Detective Rachel Martinez met with me in a small office that smelled like old coffee and copy paper. She was maybe in her mid-40s with kind eyes that reminded me of my nursing colleagues, people who'd seen difficult things but hadn't lost their compassion. Mrs. Harrison, I understand you want to report financial theft? I nodded and opened my folder. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I felt strangely calm, like I'd stepped into a river and the current was carrying me forward, whether I liked it or not. My daughter has been stealing from my bank accounts, credit cards, and retirement savings for approximately 2 years. I have documentation here. I spread the papers across her desk. Bank transfer records, credit card statements for accounts I never opened, a timeline of discrepancies. Detective Martinez put on reading glasses and began examining the documents. Her expression grew more serious with each page. This is very thorough, Mrs. Harrison. Can you tell me how you discovered this? I told her everything. The disappearing savings, the unauthorized credit cards, the mounting evidence I'd been collecting. And finally, the phone conversation I'd overheard the night before. She said I was too weak to fight back, I said quietly, that I wouldn't do anything even if I found out. Detective Martinez looked up at me. But you're here. Yes, I'm here. She asked me detailed questions. Did Vanessa have legal access to my accounts? Had I ever given her permission to make transfers? Did she live with me? When had the theft started? I answered everything as clearly as I could. The nurse in me understood the importance of accurate information. Mrs. Harrison, I need to be honest with you about what happens next, Detective Martinez said, setting down her pen. If you want to press charges, this will likely result in your daughter's arrest. The evidence you've provided is substantial. This isn't a gray area. These are serious crimes. Identity theft, forgery, elder financial abuse. She could face significant jail time. My stomach twisted. I understand. Are you prepared for that? I ask because many family members change their minds at this point. It's not easy to see a loved one arrested. I thought about that for a long moment. Was I prepared? Could I really go through with this? Then I thought about Vanessa laughing on that phone call, about her coldly calculating how much more she could steal, about years of my hard work, my retirement, my security being drained away while she smiled at me across the dinner table. Detective, I spent 40 years as a nurse, I said. I dealt with difficult situations every day. I made hard decisions. And one thing I learned is that enabling someone's harmful behavior doesn't help them. It hurts them. My daughter needs to face consequences. Maybe she needed to face them a long time ago. Detective Martinez nodded slowly. Then let's proceed. I'll need you to make a formal statement. I spent the next 2 hours going through everything again, this time for the official record. By the time I left the police station, it was early afternoon and a case had been opened against my daughter. The next 3 days were surreal. I went home after the police station and acted like nothing had happened. Vanessa never suspected. We had dinner together, watched television. She even hugged me goodnight, and I had to stand there and accept it, knowing what was coming. Detective Martinez had told me it would take a few days to process everything and prepare for the arrest. They wanted to verify my documentation, consult with the district attorney's office, and build an airtight case. We'll likely arrest her at a neutral location, Detective Martinez had explained. Not at your home. You shouldn't be present for it. It's safer that way. I'd asked them to do it at her work. Vanessa had recently started a new job, receptionist at a dental office in downtown Portland. She'd been there about 6 weeks. Every morning she'd leave around 8:30 and I'd have the apartment to myself. On the 4th day, Friday morning, she left for work as usual. "See you tonight, Mom. Maybe we can order Thai food." "That sounds nice, honey." As soon as her car pulled away, my phone rang. Detective Martinez. "Mrs. Harrison, we're executing the arrest warrant this morning. Officers are heading to her workplace now. I wanted to give you advance notice." My heart started racing. "Thank you. Are you okay? Do you have someone who can be with you?" "I'm fine. I'm okay." I wasn't sure if that was true, but it was what came out. After we hung up, I sat on my couch and stared at the wall. In about an hour, maybe less, Vanessa's entire life was going to change. Officers would walk into that dental office. They'd ask to speak with her. They'd place her under arrest in front of her coworkers, her boss, everyone. Part of me felt sick about it, but a larger part, the part that had heard her laugh about stealing from me, that had watched my life savings disappear, that had been called too weak, felt something else. Resolution, finality, justice. My phone rang again around 10:30. Detective Martinez. "It's done. She's been arrested and is being processed at the county jail. She'll be arraigned Monday morning. I wanted you to know." Did she say anything?" "She claimed there was a mistake, that you'd given her permission. Standard denials." Detective Martinez paused. "Mrs. Harrison, you should know she tried to call you from the jail multiple times. You're not obligated to take those calls." "I won't," I said. Also, be prepared. She might try to contact you through friends or other family members. She might apologize, make promises, try to convince you to drop the charges. It's very common. I understand. After that call, I sat in my quiet apartment and cried. Not from regret, I didn't regret my decision, but from grief. Grief for the relationship that had never really existed. Grief for the daughter I'd thought I had versus the person she actually was. If you're watching this and you've ever had to make an impossible choice to protect yourself, even when it hurt, especially when it hurt, could you take a moment and subscribe to this channel? Your support means everything to me, and it reminds me that I'm not alone in facing hard truths. The weekend was the longest of my life. Vanessa remained in jail until her Monday arraignment. The bail would be set then, and she'd have the opportunity to be released if she could make it. I knew she'd try to call me, try to get me to bail her out. I had the jail block my number. On Saturday, Vanessa's friend Kelly showed up at my door. Kelly had been Vanessa's friend since high school, a woman I'd always liked, always welcomed into our home. "Mrs. Harrison, I need to talk to you about Vanessa." Her face was troubled. I let her in, offered her tea. We sat in my living room, the same room where Vanessa and I had spent countless evenings. "She called me from jail," Kelly said. "She's devastated. She told me what happened, and Mrs. Harrison, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Vanessa said you'd been confused lately, that maybe you forgot giving her permission." "Kelly," I interrupted gently but firmly, "did Vanessa tell you she stole over $35,000 from me? That she opened credit cards in my name? That I heard her on the phone laughing about it, calling me too weak to stop her?" Kelly's face went pale. She said it was maybe a few thousand, and she was planning to pay you back, and she lied to you, just like she's been lying to me. I pulled out copies of my bank statements. "Look at these. These are just some of the transfers. This is not confusion. This is not misunderstanding. This is calculated theft." Kelly stared at the papers, and I watched her expression shift from defensive to shocked to horrified. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Mrs. Harrison, I had no idea. She made it sound like... She said you were having memory problems, getting paranoid, that she was worried about you." "I know. She's very convincing. She's been convincing for 2 years while she robbed me." Kelly left shortly after, apologizing profusely. I felt bad for her. She'd been manipulated too. Vanessa had been spinning a web of lies far wider than just me. Sunday was quiet. I went to church, something I'd been doing less frequently since Vanessa moved in. Somehow, she'd always needed something on Sunday. Mornings always had a reason why we should skip service. I sat in the pew at St. Michael's, surrounded by people I'd known for decades, and I felt a strange sense of peace. I'd done the right thing. It was hard, it was painful, but it was right. After church, Martha Chen, a friend from my nursing days, came up to me. "Patricia, I heard about Vanessa. Are you okay?" Word traveled fast in our congregation. I wasn't surprised. "I'm managing, Martha." "What you did took courage. I just want you to know that." Her words made me tear up. I'd been so worried about judgment, about people thinking I was a bad mother for having my daughter arrested. But Martha understood. "Thank you," I managed to say. Monday morning came. Vanessa's arraignment was at 9 o'clock. Detective Martinez had told me I didn't need to attend, and I chose not to. I couldn't face seeing her yet. Detective Martinez called me after the arraignment. "The judge set bail at $50,000, she said. 10% to a bondsman would be $5,000. Your daughter doesn't have it." I felt a twinge at that. Vanessa would remain in jail until her trial unless someone posted bond. But I also felt something else. Validation that she'd spent everything she'd stolen from me. All that money gone, with nothing to show for it. "The district attorney is offering a plea deal," Detective Martinez continued. "If she pleads guilty, they'll recommend 3 years in prison with credit for time served, plus restitution of the full amount stolen and 5 years probation." And if she doesn't take it, then it goes to trial. Given the evidence, she'd likely face significantly more time if convicted, 5 to 7 years, potentially. 3 years. My daughter would be in prison for 3 years. Has she responded to the offer? Her public defender is reviewing it with her. Mrs. Harrison, she's been asking to speak with you. She claims if she could just talk to you, she could explain everything. There's nothing to explain. I heard what I heard. I saw the bank statements. I understand. I just want you to be aware that she's going to try to reach out. And Detective Martinez hesitated. Be prepared for her to say things designed to manipulate you. Expressions of love, promises to change, claims that she was planning to tell you that she was going to pay you back. It's textbook behavior. I'm prepared, I said, though I wasn't sure if that was true. That afternoon, a letter arrived. Not from Vanessa, the jail would screen those, but from her public defender, requesting that I consider meeting with Vanessa as part of a restorative justice process. I threw the letter away. 2 days later, another call from Detective Martinez. She took the plea deal. She'll be sentenced in 3 weeks. The prosecution may ask if you want to give a victim impact statement. A victim impact statement. Standing in front of a judge and my daughter, explaining how her actions had affected me. Can I think about it? Of course. You have time. I spent days wrestling with that decision. Part of me wanted to speak, wanted Vanessa to hear, really hear what she'd done. But another part of me just wanted it to be over. I kept thinking about what I'd say if I did speak. Would I talk about the financial impact, the betrayal, the nights I'd spent crying, the way she'd laughed on that phone call? In the end, I decided I would give a statement. Not for Vanessa. I no longer believed anything I said would change her, but for myself, for closure. I spent a week writing it, revising it, trying to find words that captured the depth of what had happened without descending into anger or bitterness. The sentencing hearing was on a Tuesday morning. I wore my navy dress, the one I used to wear to important occasions. I did my makeup carefully, fixed my hair. I wanted to look strong because I was strong, and it was time for Vanessa to see that. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined. Judge William Bradford presided, a man in his 60s with gray hair and a stern but not unkind face. Vanessa sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, looking thinner than when I'd last seen her. When I walked in, she turned, and our eyes met for the first time since her arrest. She looked shocked to see me there. The proceedings began formally. The charges were read. Vanessa, through her attorney, confirmed her guilty plea to multiple counts of fraud and identity theft. Then the judge asked if anyone would like to make a statement. The prosecutor nodded to me. I stood, my legs shaky but my resolve firm. I walked to the podium, my written statement in my hands. Your Honor, my name is Patricia Harrison, and I'm the victim in this case. My voice was steady, louder than I'd expected. The defendant is my daughter, my only child. For 42 years, I loved her unconditionally. I sacrificed for her. After my husband died, I worked double shifts to put her through college. I gave her a home when she needed one. I trusted her with every aspect of my life. I paused, glancing at Vanessa. She was crying silently. She repaid that trust by systematically stealing my retirement savings, my security, my peace of mind, over $35,000, money I'd spent 40 years earning, money I'd saved carefully, denying myself small pleasures so I could have security in my old age. But the financial theft, Your Honor, was only part of it. She stole something else, too. She stole my ability to trust. She stole the last years I could have spent enjoying my retirement without stress. She stole the mother-daughter relationship we could have had. My hands gripped the podium. I overheard her on the phone, laughing about stealing from me. She told someone I was too weak to fight back. That phrase haunted me, but it also woke me up, because I'm not weak. I'm a woman who survived widowhood, who raised a child alone, who spent 4 decades in a demanding profession. I'm a woman who found the courage to hold my own daughter accountable. Your Honor, I don't tell you this to be vindictive. I tell you this so you understand the depth of betrayal involved. This wasn't a stranger. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was calculated, ongoing theft from her own mother. I hope my daughter gets help in prison. I hope she learns accountability. I hope someday she understands the gravity of what she's done. But whether she does or not, I need the court to send a message that elder abuse is serious, that children don't get a pass to destroy their parents' lives. I folded my papers. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As I walked back to my seat, I felt lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying a weight and finally set it down. Judge Bradford nodded solemnly. Thank you, Mrs. Harrison. Your courage in coming forward is commendable. Then he turned to Vanessa. Miss Harrison, please stand. Judge Bradford looked at Vanessa over his reading glasses. Miss Harrison, you have pleaded guilty to multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and elder financial abuse. These are serious crimes that betrayed not just your victim's trust, but the fundamental bond between parent and child. Vanessa was crying harder now, her shoulders shaking. The court accepts your guilty plea and hereby sentences you to 3 years in the Oregon Department of Corrections, with credit for time served. Upon release, you will serve 5 years of supervised probation. You are ordered to pay full restitution of $37,462 to the victim. He paused, looking directly at Vanessa. You are also prohibited from contacting the victim for the duration of your sentence and probation period unless she explicitly consents in writing. Do you understand these terms? Yes, Your Honor, Vanessa managed to say through her tears. I hope you use your time in prison to reflect on your actions and to become a person who deserves the love your mother gave you. The gavel came down. It was over. I sat there for a moment, processing it all. 3 years, restitution, a no-contact order, justice, in the eyes of the law at least. As the bailiffs led Vanessa away, she looked back at me one last time. Her face was devastated, pleading. I saw her mouth the words, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. I simply looked at her, then looked away. Outside the courthouse, Detective Martinez found me on the steps. "How are you holding up?" "I'm not sure yet," I admitted. "It's a lot to process." "You did the right thing, Mrs. Harrison. I want you to know that. In my 15 years doing this job, I've seen too many cases where family members couldn't bring themselves to press charges. The abuse just continues. You broke that cycle." I nodded, feeling tears threaten for the first time that day. "Now what?" I asked. "Now you rebuild. You've got your restitution order, though. Realistically, it may take time to collect. You've got the no-contact order for your protection, and you've got your life back." That last part struck me. My life back. In the weeks that followed, I did start rebuilding. I changed all my passwords and PINs again. I met with a financial advisor about protecting my remaining assets. I started attending a support group for victims of financial elder abuse, and I wasn't surprised to find I wasn't alone. I also started volunteering at a senior center, teaching other older adults about financial safety and how to recognize warning signs of exploitation. If my experience could help even one person avoid what I went through, it was worth sharing. Do I miss Vanessa? Yes. I miss the daughter I thought I had. But I don't miss the person who stole from me, who called me weak, who betrayed me for years. I'm 68 years old, living in Portland, Oregon. I pressed charges against my daughter and she went to prison. And I'm not weak. I never was. I'm just a mother who finally learned that sometimes love means letting consequences happen.